So please enter into prayer with me. Knowing that there is only one life, one infinite presence that is timeless, boundless, expressing through all of creation. It is the pulse of now, ever unfolding, ever becoming. This divine presence knows no limitation, knows no boundary of time, age, or circumstance. It is pure beingness, always present, always available. And I see it in the furrowed bark of the madrone tree, and the black-capped chickadee that sings its sermon to the morning sun, beckoning for it to show itself again. And the flash of kingfishers blinking in and out of perspective like the divine messengers that they are. All of nature proclaims this presence, this sacred rhythm of existence, and so do I. I am one with this presence. This eternal life lives in me, as me, and through me. I am the living activity of spirit. I am the valley stream dispersing the snowmelt of all of those God qualities, all that love, light, life, power, peace, beauty, and joy that resides within me. This is my truth, and this is the truth for each one here as well, that they are not separate from the divine, nor could they be. Each one hears this unrepeatable expression of the divine pattern of wholeness and truth. And so it is from this place in consciousness, from this place in awareness, that I speak my word for this community, knowing that this service and this community is aligned with divine right timing, with right action, with right direction, all emerging effortlessly from within. I affirm that the music that is offered here today tunes each one into the memory of their true self. Each note a dismissal to any notion of lack, limitation, separation, or fear. And I know that the words spoken here today are like seeds dropped into the soil of each one's soul, an epiphany for the roots and the mycelium that lay hidden beneath. And I know that the silent moments today shape the curvature of each one's becoming into greater and greater authenticity, greater than they could possibly imagine. So I am overflowing with gratitude for this. Gratitude for knowing that we live in this infinite field of possibility. And gratitude to the law that always acts with precision to the impress of my thoughts. And so I release this word into that law, knowing that it is done, knowing that it is so, and so it is.
I want to talk today about our theme, or our talk title today, which is it's never too late and it's never too soon. Never too late and it's never too soon. And this is part of our series on the lightness of being incredible. And we are incredible. Nudge your neighbor and say, you already are incredible. You already are incredible. Thank you. But we oftentimes keep that incredibleness in the closet, yes? It's time to come out of the closet. You know, we're doing Pride Month, so we're going to come out of the closet in all ways. And to come out of that closet, to keep from being bottled up and from playing it safe, not wanting to rock the boat. How many of you have heard that? How many of you said that maybe to yourself or somebody else? And all of that is a form of fear. All of that is a form of fear of what will happen if I truly express my incredibleness. Will I still have friends? Will I still have a job? You know, will I still have a relationship? All that stuff. You know, will I be rejected or worse, punished, or all that stuff? Often as children, we're coerced out of expressing our full aliveness. We get coerced out of that by our parents, our teachers, our peers. Um, if I had thought about it sooner, I would have asked Brent to do a Daniel Namad song called uh, um, Waiting for Nothing, but I didn't think about it until yesterday, so sorry. And I don't like to do that. But there's some lyrics here that might sound familiar to you. Wait until the summer's over. Wait until your life's begun. Wait until you learn to walk. Wait until you learn to run. Wait until we're sure you're ready. Wait until the drama's through. Maybe then we'll call on you. You can just do just what you want to, just as soon as you finish school. Wait until you have the answers. How many of us are waiting till we have all the answers, all of our ducks lined up in a row before we step forward? Wait until you know the rules. Wait until your record's perfect. This economy is tricky, best to put it off, it seems. Wait until you're sure just what she'll do. So that's the kind of stuff that oftentimes we're raised on, is wait, wait, wait. And then eventually we've been waiting and we've been waiting and we've been waiting, and then somebody says, oh, it's too late. You're too old. It's gone. Time's gone. I could do a Steely Dan song, over a long time ago. Pretzel Logic. Yep. Anyway. Sorry. I think in terms of music. So then we move into the workforce, and we're not where we're fitting in, not expressing our brilliance is what's strongly encouraged, yes? In most work jobs we've ever had. And as children, you may have been told you can be what you want later. That was kind of in that line. But many horizons, when we move towards the horizon, the closer we get to the horizon, the further it gets away from us. It just keeps on moving away. Until years later, it feels just as different until we get discouraged and settle into mediocrity. I'm just going to settle into it. I'm not going to go for my big dreams. I'm not going to live my incredibleness. I'll just do what it takes to get by. And fitting in and being comfortably numb, as long as we're referring to songs. Henry David Thoreau said, the mass of men, I think he meant the mass of people, but his language at his time, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What is called resignation is confirmed desperation. And Oliver Wendell Holmes, a little earlier, said, alas for those that never sing but die with all their music in them. So eventually, because we buy into the human construct of time, we decide we're too old, and we're content to toddle off to our graves with all our incredibleness left within us, unexpressed. And the infinite aliveness, last week I talked about ideas go in search of people and vehicles for them to express through, which is people. So the infinite aliveness goes in search of another place where it can show up in its incredibleness, because the infinite is the incredibleness itself. And ours is to say yes. And so if we don't, it will find somebody who does. The infinite expresses as ideas. I know people who pray for money, they want God to drop money into their lap. It doesn't work that way. The infinite expresses as ideas. And so we're always a choice about expressing our own incredibleness. We're always a choice. We always have the choice to say yes or no. But we often either never learn how to access it, or we let our culture, as we talked about earlier, talk us out of doing it. So last week we practiced visioning, which is a process for accessing that incredibleness within it, our inner callings, our visions. And I use that term visions, plural, because we don't just have one vision. We get this idea that I must have the vision for my life. And most of us have multiple visions, lots of stuff that are big, that are little, that are appropriate. A lot of centers start every project they do with visioning. What is the highest idea that Spirit wants to call forth through us? We need to get more in the habit of doing that here. But that practice of visioning, to catch that inner knowing, to catch that inner flame that's within us. And so this week we explore the timing of expressing those visions, and we begin by recognizing that the idea of time is a human construct. It's a human construct so that we can track and differentiate events in a sequential way, which is useful as humans, yes? Because if I said I had dinner now, and I'm having dinner now, and I'm having lunch with my daughter now, except we're doing it later, we would not be able to differentiate any of that. I want you to meet me at the corner of such and such now, but I really mean at 11 o'clock on Wednesday. Right? So it's useful to have time to be able to differentiate that, but it becomes a trap when we start to assign limitations and expectations to it, such as it's too early or it's too late, all of which exist in our perspective, our minds, yes? I have a lovely example of that. My next door neighbor, Steve, many of you know Steve, his wife Annie gets up at 4 in the morning, which to me is way too early. And she and she looks at me and says, I get up at 7:30, 8 o'clock maybe, and she goes, that's way too late. I've already had 3 or 4 hours of life, in that time. Of course, they're in bed by 7:30, and I'm just kind of getting warmed up into the evening, So we have this idea of it's too early or it's too late, not only in our day, but we have it in our life. And so when we look around and assume that, or are conditioned to believe that time controls our life, I have to wait for the perfect timing. Instead of, who controls our life? We do, by choice. We look to outer circumstances, time, money, all those other circumstances. But if we believe that time controls our life, we might just have to wait for the right time until we're conditioned to believe that we've waited too long, and now it's too late. Take a breath. And although it's helpful to perceive life as a flow of events happening in time, the reality is that there is no time. Everything is happening in the nowness, the infinite nowness. I love it. My friend Reverend Michael Beckwith says, today and tomorrow are just more of God's now. We're the now kids on the block, yes. And so, just as it's helpful to describe the sun as rising and setting, even though relatively speaking the sun is stationary compared to the earth, time is now, even though there's a convenience for expressing past and future. And who was I playing with past, future, participle? That was the finance committee, yes. Yes. Where they will be about to arrive soon or something like that, yes. So even as we contemplate past or future events, the only time in which we're experiencing them is now. I can't re-experience a past event. I can only re-experience my memory of that past event in this now moment. I can't experience a future event. I can only experience my anticipation and expectation about the future event. And when do I experience that? Now. Okay? So when we awake from the foggy haze of believing in too late or too soon, we notice that many people have done things other than at the socially designated times, right? Oh no. And whether it's becoming highly successful in business before 30, and millionaires before 30, or billionaires these days before 30, or whether it's beginning a new career after 70, often not based on the proper indicators of what we're supposed to do, we finally realize that we're conditioned to believe in them, in those indicators and those circumstances for them to shine. And this ability for them to shine outside of any parameter isn't limited to certain special people, right? Yes, sir. How about this side of the room? Yes? Okay, thank you. Good. Just checking that you were awake too. It's not limited to a few fortunate people, but that ability to shine at any time lives within us right now, awaiting our willingness, to shine forth through us. We have to give it permission. We have to say yes. But it's sitting there like anticipating at the door, kind of, will you open the door? Will you open the door? Will you open the door? Kind of like a certain dog that I know, one that's named Happy, or other dogs that are kind of like, can we go? Can we go play? Can we go play? Can I get food now? Can I get food now? And so it's waiting to shine forth through us even when we don't know how, which is oftentimes the trap that we fall in is, well, I don't know how that would happen. Here's the clue. The how will unfold as we say yes. The vision carries the how within it. And so we say yes to the vision, and then we listen along the way, and the how reveals itself. And I have bad news. We have to be willing to make mistakes. We have to be willing to have things not work out. Oh. I remember one time I was doing contemplation of the trees in there, and there's trees with little stubs of branches that are not complete, right? I think it's a characteristic of cedars. Those are big branches that didn't work out, but the crown up at the top is magnificent and still thriving and alive. Are we willing to make mistakes? Are we willing to go through, quote, failure, or just learning how not to do it until we find ways of how to do it? Yes. Thank you. To go through the ego-challenging journey of letting old ideas fall away and die, old ideas of how it should be, and then revealing the light that wants to shine through us, yet requires us to walk through the valley of the shadow of death, or the dark night of the soul, or the dissolution of the caterpillar, whatever metaphor we want to use. If we want to get to something new, we have to go through that. I think of the movie The Shawshank Redemption, where in order to get free, get out of the prison, the guy had to walk through, I think it was a half-mile sewage pipe in order to get out to the other side. And sometimes that's what our life feels like. I can't watch that movie, or at least not that part of that movie. Too much claustrophobia for me. But life requires us to face our fears, to face our ideas of this might not work out, and walk through anyways. It's been said that enlightenment comes from subtraction, not addition. In other words, letting go of everything that blocks our view of capital R reality. Not gaining a greater view, but letting go of everything that's been in the way of that view. So we can truly see and be with the actual reality instead of seeing and being with our thoughts about our old perceptions, our old ideas about reality. Can I really truly be with a person I'm sitting in front of? Or can I just be with my idea about that person? When we stop believing in the idea of too late or too soon, which includes ideas of being too young or too old, true confession right there. As I'm sitting there reading, believing in ideas of too late, too soon, I looked up at the clock to see, am I too late or too soon on this talk? That's how pervasive and little subtle things it is, right? Am I on time? What's on time? Am I on time? Yes. Because there's only one time, and that is? Yeah. And I haven't ever seen anybody get up and walk out and say, I'm not ever coming back because he went 2 minutes over or 2 minutes under. Taking a breath. When we stop believing those too late, too soon ideas, which includes the ideas of being too young and too old, we are free to live, which includes learning. Henry Ford, one of my favorite little Henry Ford quotes, anyone who stops learning is old, whether at 20 or 80. Anyone who keeps learning stays young. The greatest thing in life is to keep your mind young. And we do that by continuing to learn something new. So we get to decide if we actually live 365 days a year, or if we live the same day 365 times a year. We get to decide if we died at 20 but aren't buried until we're in our 70s and 80s, or if we're going to live, capital L, live fully, flat out, all the time, anytime. And it doesn't matter how long it takes or if we succeed at letting our incredibleness shine, whatever the definition that we're conditioned to believe that succeeding is, because we all have another conditioned idea that this is what success looks like, and unless I'm absolutely assured of success, I'm not even going to start. Yes? And it may never happen in our lifetimes. You know, this Thursday we celebrate Juneteenth, which is the celebration, the honoring of the day that the last time the Emancipation Proclamation was read to the final slaves. They were in Texas in order that they were free. And it took until the Army got to Texas towards the end of the Civil War to be able to read that and declare everybody free. That took centuries of people working to create that freedom. And some would say that that process is still taking centuries, lifetimes to fully embody the underlying idea of the freedom and dignity of all people. In case you haven't noticed, that's still kind of a thing that we're working on towards. Does that mean that people have failed because they didn't do it sooner? Or is it just that the process takes a while? There are certain things that it takes time to shift. It takes lifetimes to shift. But if there's only now, it still is shifting in the now. We're still learning how to embody this vision of respect and dignity and freedom for all people. But that doesn't mean we should give up or get hopeless. It means we should ask, what is the light within me? What is my unique light that wants to express? And it's important to notice that each successive step has brought us further up the mountain of freedom and respect, from which allows us to then see further and greater freedom and respect. Oh, we did this much. Now that we're here, oh, maybe we need to do this much. Oh, now that we're here, I can see that this also needs to happen. And it needs to apply to these people and those people and this situation and that situation. So we are called to listen to the visions within us, the light that we are called to shine, the light that, nudge your neighbor, listen to the light that you are called to shine. Yes. See, because each of us carries a little piece that is our unique light to shine, and it all contributes to the whole. And it shines a whole lot brighter if we're all saying yes to that. And the trick is to not compare ourselves to others. Oh, look at how bright their light is. I don't really have much to offer. No. Shine your light. It's the right light. It's enough. Don't think that your light is not important enough or that it's too late or too soon, because there's only now. Shine. So I'm going to suggest two things this week to play with that. Number one, take some time to be still and ask, what is the light or the vision wanting to shine through me now? What is the light of the vision that's wanting to shine through me now? And remember, you're not trying to make it happen. You're allowing it to come. You're making it welcome. You're letting it shine through you. That's all you're doing, is you're opening the door and saying, yes, I have no bloody idea how that's going to happen, but I'm willing to say yes. And then the second part of that is, as you do that, notice that your mind will chatter away. It'll tell you, oh, it's not that important. I'm too old. It's too late for me. And besides, I don't know how. And my ducks aren't in a row, and the economy isn't right, and the circumstances, look at the president, and I can say that 20 years ago, look at the president, look at my life, look at my, whatever, look at all that stuff. Thank the chatter. How many people have chatter? You know you have chatter, yes? Okay, so just thank it and say yes to the vision anyway. Are you willing to play with those two things this week? Yes. Listening to the vision, noticing the chatter, and saying thank you very much for sharing, and I'm going to say yes to the vision anyway. So I want to close with a quote that's from an interview between Bill Moyers and Joseph Campbell. Yes, on the power of myth. And Bill Moyers asks Joseph Campbell, do you have the sense of being helped by hidden hands? Isn't that an interesting question? Do you ever have the sense of being helped by hidden hands? And Joseph Campbell says, all the time. It is miraculous. I even have a superstition that has grown on me as a result of invisible hands coming all the time. Namely, that if you do follow your bliss, you put yourself on a kind of track that has been there all the while, waiting for you. And that the life that you ought to be living is the one you are living. When you can see that, you begin to meet people who are in your field of bliss, and they open doors to you. I say, follow your bliss and don't be afraid. And doors will open where you didn't know they were going to be. Breathe that in. Then join me in our affirmation. It's never too late to live my authentic life, and it's never too soon to take the first step. Let's say it one more time together. It's never too late to live my authentic life, and it's never too soon to take the first step.